after weeks of punishing airstrikes, Israel has sent troops and tanks across the border into Lebanon. The move, a blistering escalation in its fight against Hezbollah and one that threatens to engulf the Middle East in all-out war.
As blasts rock the southern suburbs of Beirut, a new phase in the fight between Israel and Hezbollah is unfolding. The Israeli army confirming it's launched limited, localised and targeted ground raids against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The escalation, the culmination of a series of blows dealt by Israel. From blowing up Hezbollah's communication devices and weapons depots to wiping out most of the group's top commanders, including longtime leader Hassan Nasrallah.
I think there's probably a fair degree of optimism that the Israelis are able to pursue Hezbollah in a way that was probably unimaginable even 12 months ago.
But despite the setbacks, Hezbollah, who began firing rockets into northern Israel after the outbreak of war in Gaza nearly 12 months ago, says its fighters stand ready. Israel's goal? To allow 60,000 displaced Israelis to return to their homes near the Lebanese border.
Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plan?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now. Thank you.
But Israel is on the offence. Over the past few days, striking its enemies on multiple fronts. Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. All backed by Iran, whose residents the Israeli PM addressed directly overnight.
There is nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach. There is nowhere we will not go to protect our people and protect our country. With every passing moment, the regime is bringing you, the noble Persian people, closer to the abyss.
But aid groups are warning Israel's offensive is setting off a sprawling humanitarian disaster in Lebanon. More than 1 million civilians already displaced.
We've lived in 2006, the same case. And now it's worse, it's times 10.
As the risk of an all-out region-wide war inches closer.
Every day you have to wake up, make sure your friends, your family are okay. You tend to worry about a lot of things, but I wish nobody lives what we are living.
Journalist and senior analyst for the International Crisis Group, David Wood, is on the outskirts of Beirut. David, Israel has been involved in 2 wars with Hezbollah previously. It hasn't always ended as quickly as you might expect. It can be drawn out. And in both those cases, they're kind of widely considered to have ended as a draw. Does this time look like it'll be any different?
So I think the big difference here is that Israel has demonstrated a lot of preparation for this conflict and incredible, really, intelligence capabilities. It's eliminated much of Hezbollah's senior leadership, including the leader Hassan Nasrallah, and also has done massive damage to Hezbollah infrastructure. On the other hand, Hezbollah still, we don't know exactly how much for sure, but still retains some of its weapons arsenal. And also as a group is probably better suited to the kind of guerrilla insurgency war that a ground invasion by Israel would provoke. Hezbollah's fighters know the south of Lebanon and also Hezbollah's tunnel network under the ground in southern Lebanon extremely well. And they would probably not need the same level of coordination required to launch complex missile attacks on northern Israel to attack Israeli troops who are actually stationed inside southern Lebanon and not under the protection of the Iron Dome. So it comes with huge risks for Israel despite its intelligence capabilities.
The Lebanese Prime Minister has called for a ceasefire and wants the UN Resolution 1701 enacted. What would that mean?
This is clear signalling to the international community that the Lebanese state is willing to deploy the national army to the areas near the Lebanese-Israeli border, and that this could potentially be used as a basis for negotiations to ensure that Hezbollah fighters can no longer approach near the border and threaten northern Israel.
Right, so this would be the Lebanese army holding Hezbollah in check in that part of the country. Do they actually have the capacity to do that? Like, which is the stronger fighting force?
It's a really good question. And obviously Hezbollah, certainly before the past 2 weeks, was clearly the stronger of the parties. The other issue, of course, is that the Lebanese army is made up of different sectarian groups. Lebanon is a country that's divided between different sectarian communities, many of which have tensions running between each other. And if the Lebanese army was to violently confront Hezbollah, then there is the potential that the army itself could disintegrate. And, for example, the Lebanese Shia might decide to defect from the army. So it's an incredibly risky proposition as well.
You mentioned that Lebanese army is kind of, it's a collection of people from different sectarian groups in Lebanon. That's true for the whole country. Does that mean there are different attitudes in Lebanon to the Israeli ground invasion? What would you say is the prevailing Lebanese attitude, if there is one?
It's a tricky question to answer, but I would definitely say that the different sectarian communities in Lebanon, whether or not they're aligned with or opposed to Hezbollah, oppose the idea of an Israeli ground invasion, and that in general, Israel's military operations in Lebanon have not increased Israel's popularity at all. In fact, more often than not, the opposite is true. But I think that there is a dangerous dynamic that could develop from Hezbollah if it turns out that it has been significantly weakened, that this could present an opportunity for some of its political rivals to potentially try to wrestle back some power from Hezbollah, or even push for its disarmament, which Hezbollah would almost certainly react to violently and could lead to an extremely dangerous situation domestically in Lebanon, on top of the ongoing Israeli military operations.
OK, David, appreciate the update. Thanks for your time.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.